You guys really turbocharged this. So tell me a little bit more about what Airtable is today.
Airtable today is a platform for creating modern business applications with embedded AI to manage and automate digital processes.
Like you guys really took that concept of no code to another level where people now are able to build applications, especially between, internally.
The company's mission has always been to democratize software creation. So that was always part of the vision and the mission, was to make it easier for anyone to build really great software without needing to code.
Providing a service layer. Because no matter how much you try to automate the workflows with AI and with other things, at the end of the day, some people need an extra hand. And I noticed that you guys provide, in some cases, the Airtable consultant, like the person that will literally sit down, be like, okay, I'm going to do it with you, so hopefully the next time you can do it yourself.
Generally, product teams do a pretty good job of engaging with existing customers. So usually, when you talk to PMs, like they spend a lot, they'll tell you like, yeah, I spend a lot of my time, I spend 20-30% of my time with customers. What I found has been more rare is product teams spending time with their sales team and spending time with prospects and people who are not yet their customers.
Hey, this is Carlos, CEO of Product School and your host on the Product Podcast. Today's guest is Anthony Maggio, VP of Product at Airtable, a no-code platform that blends the simplicity of spreadsheets with the power of databases, allowing users to create applications and manage workflows. Airtable has raised $1.35 billion in funding and is valued at $11 billion. The platform now serves over 500,000 organizations, including half of the Fortune 500. In this episode, we'll explore key topics such as how Airtable scaled from a consumer product into an enterprise platform. Airtable Cobuilder, which is a revolutionary tool that allows users to create custom applications quickly and easily using AI without having to code. Why product teams are increasingly accountable for driving revenue, and how Airtable connects product-led growth with sales-led growth to better serve enterprise customers. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Product Podcast, Anthony.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to see you, Carlos.
I'm glad to have you on the podcast because I know that you are a very early contributor to the Product School community. When you were working at Envision, you gave a talk at Product School.
That's right. It's been a few years and I'm happy to be back.
You're back as the VP of Product at Airtable. Before we get into all things Airtable, I also have a couple of fun facts. I hope don't embarrass you much, but it seems like your first paying job was building a Microsoft Access database in middle school. I guess that, in a way, connected to what you are doing now at Airtable in an unexpected way.
Totally. I often say that I feel like I've been training for this job since I was in 7th grade. Truly, one of my first paying jobs was I was hired by a summer camp to build their database, to manage and run the summer camp, to handle things like registrations and payments and the catalog of activities and all of that. They'd been running it in spreadsheets and actually paper-based processes for years before that. And I built this application for them on Microsoft Access that was really just mind-blowing to everyone at the organization. It made them so much more efficient. It was made the processes so much smoother. And it was actually a really pivotal moment for me as well that got me interested in this no-code space. As someone who is not technical, but loved solving problems, loved creating solutions to these kind of business problems, it was one of the first experiences I had with tools in that space. And there is definitely a direct through line to that and what brought me to my role at Airtable today.
Let's talk about that because it's a lot of startups that start as a better spreadsheet. Yeah. And you guys really turbocharged this. So tell me a little bit more about what Airtable is today.
Yeah, so Airtable today is a platform for creating modern business applications with embedded AI to manage and automate digital processes. And those processes can look really different across industries, across functions. So for example, we manage many of the workflows in the media industry all around bringing content and titles to life. If you watch any shows on any of the streaming platforms, most of them, if not all of the, I think 10 of the 10 top 10 streamers are Airtable customers. And they typically leverage Airtable to plan what are the shows that we're going to produce, Where do we film them? Who's going to be the actors in those shows? What are all the locations that will be leveraged? And then the budgets, the scheduling, everything down to the marketing of the show. So that's a really good example of an end-to-end digital process and emblematic of many of the types of problems that our customers use Airtable to solve.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the evolution of that, because I was an early customer, and it was really a better version of a spreadsheet, right? But like you guys really took that concept of no code to another level, where people now are able to build applications, especially between, internally. And so how did that happen as a product leader? How did you evolve the product to get to where you are today?
Yeah, so Airtable's had a unique history. As you said, most people who know Airtable, they think of it as this spreadsheet on steroids, kind of easy to use database, because the company's been around for about 12 years now. And that's where they started, was that bottoms up, easy to use, sign up and structure your data into an easy relational database. Around 2018, 2019 is when Airtable really started the early movement into these larger scale workflows within enterprises. And as I shared, media, entertainment was one of the first big verticals where we started to see larger customers building these end-to-end workflows on Airtable. And that was a big part of what led to a shift in the company strategy and approach that really impacted every aspect of the company, the product, the go-to-market, the positioning, to really orient around becoming a full-fledged app platform that would allow non-technical users to build these solutions. The company's mission has always been to democratize software creation. So that was always part of the vision, and the mission was to make it easier for anyone to build really great software without needing to code. But I'd say that it's really been over the last 5 or 6 years that the platform has evolved and become this now enterprise-grade application development platform.
And what do you mean by enterprise grade? Because I've seen a lot of companies that say, oh, we're B2B, we're enterprise. In reality, they're just using the same product for a company that is bigger. So how do you make your product a better fit for a bigger company?
Yeah, so I think there's a few dimensions of it, and I think you're right. There's a lot of companies that, they go and build some security features and admin features and say, okay, now we're enterprise ready. But, the way that I think of it is that you really need to be able to solve problems that are unique to really large-scale customers and large-scale buyers. And so that's where Airtable is really invested in a lot of our differentiation. And I'll give you some, examples of that on the product side. We make it really easy to build delightful apps that can serve thousands of users. And we see this happen very frequently, where customers will build applications on Airtable that have thousands of weekly active users on those individual applications. So, I like to think of it as some of the apps that our customers are powering on the platform are, equal in size to a small startup, right? In terms of the number of users that they support. Another big piece of it is the scale of the applications and the level of complexity of workflows, of permissions, of data volume that they can manage. That's an area we've invested in substantially. We now support hundreds of millions of records in terms of data volume for applications on Airtable. And then a third piece of it is what types of problems are you solving and for whom within a company? And so we've invested significantly in solutions that are really dedicated towards solving problems that are top of mind for executive level buyers in large companies. Those could be things like managing your end-to-end marketing processes, or managing all of your product development processes, or supply chain workflows within retail. So those are some of the ingredients that I think about of what it means to be an enterprise company, is that you solve big problems for senior buyers at really large scale global companies.
Yeah, and let's talk about adoption, because I know that in those large companies, at the end of the day, you still have to start with someone, and hopefully that expands into more and more people. I think adoption is a critical component, especially when you are building a product that has so many possibilities. So how do you go about helping that user that might not know how to create their first app to start getting value as fast as possible?
Yeah, so that's an area that we have thought a lot about at Airtable, and it is, as you point out, it's a challenge to for someone who has never built an application to understand the components that are required to build a great app, from the database model and schema to designing automations and permissions and UI. It's actually one of the first areas that we've invested significantly in AI internally. So we launched a product called Cobuilder in July of this year that will actually move the process of building applications away from an individual atomic level building and actually into the world of AI. And so we now allow users to simply describe the business problem that they're looking to solve and to provide context around the type of workflow, the users that will use their application, to upload sample or example data for the application that they're building. And then we leverage AI to actually do a lot of the building to make inferences about their industry, their role, the users that they're building for, and actually help them design applications. So that's been a really exciting area of investment for us. We've seen really positive results since we've launched our co-builder with and are continuing to significantly develop the capabilities in that area.
I want to ask you about that because, of course, you use the word AI, and I have to continue the conversation there. There's a lot of hype about it for a good and bad reason. So can you provide specific examples on how someone who might not be super technical is able to build an application using AI?
Yeah, so there's two broad areas that we're investing in AI. So let me kind of give you those two areas to start. So the first is what I mentioned of Cobuilder. That's where we are using AI to help our customers build applications in Airtable to make it easier to go create those workflow apps to manage your processes. The second area is what we think of as AI automation, or we call it oftentimes AI at runtime. And that's where we're giving our customers tools to insert AI into the applications they're building. And that's actually, where I think we will see the largest amount of business impact because we're giving our customers the ability to apply AI to their own business problems in a recurring way. So, for example, we had a customer at AWS, someone in the marketing department, who built an application in Airtable that manages the entire marketing process for their marketplace. So all of the campaigns that are produced, all the emails that are sent out, the landing pages created, integrates with Salesforce, with Marketo, all the systems of record. And they built an application that uses Airtable's embedded AI to make recommendations about how to improve each new campaign that's created. So it's really unique in that, unlike a chat product, like a Copilot, where you have to rely on every marketer, every person in your organization to remember, like, okay, how do I prompt the AI? How do I get feedback on this campaign? In this case, you had one person who was able to go build this application, embed AI into the workflow. And now every one of the marketers that uses this app benefits from the suggestions and the improvements that are made by AI as they're designing new campaigns. So that's where we see a lot of promise and where we've been investing significantly in helping our customers really build more powerful workflow applications that leverage this technology in compounding and recurring.
I remember when no code started becoming popular around 2015, 16. It was really transformational, especially for product people, because we used to rely on tools that weren't created for us, and they, in some cases, required some technical expertise. I remember having to go to a database and use SQL and remember all the different types of queries in order to access information. Or creating a prototype on Photoshop, or doing a roadmap on PowerPoint. That was insane. So when no code became a thing, there was a whole new generation of builders that now are able to ship faster. And I see that evolution now with AI, where it's not just about no code, it's also able to think logically and connect you with other applications, so you can just speak English or any other language and get an iteration of whatever you have in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely where this is going. So, we've continued our investments with Cobuilder to not only help you just create that first version of the app, but actually to continue iterating on the application and evolving it over time. And so some of the things that we're, working on there will be allowing you to design, custom interfaces with AI, to create automation sequences, to connect other tools through integrations. And you're right, it really just does open up the aperture of the number of people who can start to become application developers.
So let's talk about integrations because, as you mentioned in the previous example, in order for these applications to be truly powerful, sometimes they need to connect with third-party tools that like systems of record, like Salesforce, Marketo, and whatnot. So
Yeah.
how do you go about picking how to integrate with a third-party tool and creating that specific integration?
Yeah, so integrations are a big part of our strategy as a platform. We connect with many of the common enterprise systems of record. So things like Jira, Salesforce, Workday, etc. Those are largely driven by customer need and by customer request from the accounts that we work with. And then also we support open APIs for our customers to build their own integrations, and that's another area of inspiration for us. So as we start to see a large enough volume of customers building custom integrations through our API, that's typically a trigger for us to go identify the potential to go build a new out-of-the-box integration to support a particular industry or vertical or functional workflow.
I can imagine product managers are a big user of your product. In fact, I saw the announcement you made this week around ProductCentral. That made me very happy. So tell us more about that, please.
Yeah, so product management has always been a significant use case for Airtable. In the 4 years that I've been here, we've seen many of the largest and the most innovative companies using Airtable to build systems of record for their product management organizations. And so, many of the AI companies, many of the kind of biggest names in San Francisco and Silicon Valley use Airtable to power their end-to-end product operations, as well as many companies like large enterprises that are building product organizations for the first time and are building, going through digital transformations and building out their product org. And as we interviewed a lot of those customers and asked them why they chose Airtable and why they were building these solutions on Airtable rather than using, any of the existing off-the-shelf product solutions, we heard a lot of similar themes. And the themes that would typically come up are that those solutions are fine for kind of basic, backlog management and road mapping, but they don't really scale to provide the visibility and the level of extensibility that large organizations need. So, when you have a team of thousands of product managers, there's just a different set of problems that you need to manage. Things like capacity planning, dependency, management across teams. Your leaders need to get global visibility across roadmaps that connect hundreds of different product teams. You need to integrate with some of those systems I mentioned, like a Workday and a Salesforce, to be able to understand how your resources, your human resources, are aligned to product initiatives and goals and how they connect to customer outcomes. And we don't see existing solutions that provide those capabilities very natively today. And so that was a big part of what inspired ProductCentral. We essentially looked at our most successful customers, some of the companies that were really, at the bleeding edge of product management workflows, looked at how they had constructed these workflows in Airtable, and then decided to bundle all of their best practices into a managed solution that we're now making available to other Airtable customers.
So here's the thing. The challenge that I see with trying to go for too much is also how to become the best at so many things at the same time. So for a platform that you are building that can cover so many different use cases and applications, so I totally see the case for a product persona and bundling some of those applications. So how do you also identify other user personas and ensure that as you build a product, there is a clear differentiation? So the product manager also knows that, okay, you're talking to me and you can solve my problem for real. And then I don't know if you have any other types of user personas, I can imagine so, like that you are able to kind of repackage your product in a way that speak different personas' languages.
Well, so I think that's exactly what you're getting at with the launch of our ProductCentral solution. This is actually the first managed solution that Airtable has offered. So, historically, we've been an open-ended platform where our customers can build whatever they want in the platform, either themselves or through, professional services or partners who build those solutions. In this case, it's actually, a managed solution, so akin to if you think about the Salesforce as a platform, they have solutions like CRM for sales, right? So we've done the same thing with product, where this solution actually comes ready out of the box. It comes with all of the workflows and logic and data schemas built in to support these common product workflows, but is still highly extensible. So it comes built on top of the Airtable platform, giving you the ability to customize it. And that's an approach, I think that is unique for us in that we have the ability, with our platform to look at where are we seeing these trends of customers organically adopting Airtable, right? That is how we decided to go invest in product management, is that we saw such a large scale of adoption across so many different companies in technology and media, financial services that were leveraging us for this use case, that it made sense for us to actually go build a packaged, productized solution. And there's others that we expect to build there in the future for many of our other common personas and buyers.
That's a good point. And I think another opportunity that I've seen, especially as products like yours go more enterprise, is providing a service layer. Because no matter how much you try to automate the workflows with AI and with other things, at the end of the day, some people need an extra hand. And I noticed that you guys provide, in some cases, the Airtable consultant, like the person that will literally sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to do it with you, so hopefully the next time you can do it yourself.
That's right. Yeah, we have both internal services teams that provide those types of consultative services. And then we also partner with third-party service providers, as well as some of the larger systems integrators that will provide consulting services for customers. That can be both actually developing the applications, but also, a lot of that will be just change management. So when you're in a really large organization and you decide to tackle global product road mapping, for example, there's typically just a few change management problems that come out of that help to align all of your different product organizations and pillars and the way that they're running their organization and workflows today.
Yeah, and I saw something similar at the beginning when a lot of tools will create templates, and the templates would help a little bit, but at the end of the day, someone has to fill out the template, and you need to ensure that it's done the right way. And I think AI is helping fill out a lot of the templates. But ultimately, I think that human touch can help, especially when we're talking about large accounts or large impact projects that ultimately, require that you need to get it 100% right. This is not an MVP.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's, and in addition to actually, building the product, there's also the human aspect of it, right? So there's the alignment on how are we going to work, how are we going to run our processes. You can have the best software in the world, but if you don't actually have the buy-in from your users or from your customers, then obviously you'll run into adoption challenges there as well. And that's a big part of what our professional services team helps with in the deployments that we manage for our customers.
I get a lot of people asking me, can you send me a PRD template? I'm like, sure, here is one. But you also need, certain guardrails to ensure that they actually work for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let's talk about success metrics. Because when you're building something that is so ubiquitous, right? Like you're really, all your customers might have different success metrics. How do you measure that you are building the right product?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And we actually have, fairly maybe unique way of structuring our product organization at Airtable. So we actually align our product organization to lines of revenue for the company. We divide into segments. So we have a team that focuses on our self-serve business, team on our enterprise business, another that focuses on AI. AI is an add-on product to Airtable, so its own kind of line of revenue, and then our ProductCentral team as well, which is its own standalone product. And what we've found is that it's just a very neat and clean way of helping to measure the success of the product organization, right? Ultimately, the best measure of value for us is, are we creating enough product market fit that there is a market of customers who want to buy our solution. So that is ultimately the largest kind of measure of success is, how does the work that we do as part of our product org translate into value for our customers, and then how is that value kind of captured back, some of that value captured back for the company in forms of revenue. But we also look at all of the standard product success metrics that you'd expect in any kind of B2B organization. We look at the successful deployment rate of our applications. We look at the number of monthly and weekly active users and various cuts by segment, by industry. So it's a combination of looking at those kind of leading inputs, as well as ultimately the input that the measure they all ladder up to, which is generating revenue back for the business.
I love that the product team is becoming accountable for revenue. I'm a big fan of that, and I'm seeing that trend, which I think is healthy. Can you elaborate more on that and tell me more about how you're actually structuring your team to ensure that they are also contributing to business success and not just user value?
Yeah, so I mean, that is essentially how we structure. So, I think if you, and part of the reason that we made the decision to structure in that way is that if you add up the revenue accountability of each of our 4 product pillars, they account for 100% of the company's recurring subscription revenue, right? And so it makes it very clean internally for us to think about who is accountable towards driving success in any particular area of the business, who's accountable for the roadmap for supporting our enterprise platform, or for driving improvements in activation and retention and in self-serve, or for improving our AI offerings and AI capabilities that are going to make that product stickier for our customers. The other thing that's interesting, and when we implemented this structure, there was a lot of skepticism internally around how would this work, right? Like most product teams, as you point out, are not accountable to revenue. But what we found is that actually, after getting over kind of the initial change management of that, it actually really helped everyone in the business, down to to engineers on each individual team, understand intuitively the impact of their work and what it was expected to impact in terms of top line company goals, because it's now very clear to everyone what they're orienting around. We have revenue goals for each of those product pillars, so it's very easy for them to think about how will the specific project that I'm working on translate into one of those input levers that will move the needle for our part of the business.
I remember when we were having dinner in San Francisco talking about monetization for product, and you mentioned something around like having a product person associated to a specific account, the same way there are salespeople that are associated to an account, to kind of create that partnership and accountability to ensure that success is not just closing the deal. It's also adding value so the deal can continue and hopefully grow.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that's something we put a lot of focus on over the last year, is actually having our product team embedded in the pre-sale side of the organization. I think, when I talk to a lot of other product leaders and folks in the B2B space, I think generally product teams do a pretty good job of engaging with existing customers. So usually, when you talk to PMs, like they spend a lot, they'll tell you like, yeah, I spend a lot of my time, I spend 20-30% of my time with customers. What I found has been more rare is product teams spending time with their sales team and spending time with prospects and people who are not yet their customers. And, I think that is a really important part of the role in B2B, is understanding not only the customers who have already, bought your product, who have already deployed and seen some success and seen the value, but actually understanding, what are the objections to your product? Who are the alternatives in the market that your customers are considering, and why are they sometimes choosing those alternatives? So that's been a big area of focus for us within our own product team, is to embed our product managers earlier in our sales process, not only to have them engage with existing customers.
I want to chat also about AI monetization, because I find interesting that you are considering that as an add-on. For now, I've seen other companies do that, like Slack with Slack AI, but I've also seen the opposite approach, like Notion, for example, or other companies that would say, hey, AI is just a feature, a part of a paid plan. So what is your rationale behind treating AI as an add-on?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the use cases that we've seen of AI and other SaaS platforms have been, they've been fairly simplistic or shallow use cases. So, if you think about a lot of the chat type use cases, they're often doing things like, okay, summarize this thread, or summarize an email or whatnot for me. And those are very predictable in terms of, the cost of running those operations, how they'll leverage AI. We've taken a pretty different approach where, we're actually allowing our customers to build custom AI features inside their applications. An example, I shared a few examples of this around marketing, but a good example in product is that we see a lot of customers in the product space using Airtable's AI to manage all their incoming product feedback. So every time, a new App Store review is submitted, for example, identify, first of all, does it contain product feedback that's relevant for the product team, send it to the right team, connect it to a larger theme of insights that might inform our product roadmap. We've also seen examples of customers using Airtable's AI to run translations at scale. So we had a large retailer who was using Airtable AI to translate all of the metadata for their product SKUs that go up on their website. And those are use cases where you're literally building these custom AI functions that are then run against thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of records in bulk. And so we needed to create a pricing model that could scale to the value that we were providing in those use cases. And that's ultimately why we decided to price as an add-on offering, so that the customers who had those those types of use cases, who were really seeing disproportionate value, and who could recognize the impact of being able to run these AI operations at scale, could do so in a way that would scale to their needs and use cases.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think it's so early to really know. And I think there's space for different business models, right? There's so much discussion around usage, seat-based pricing, usage-based pricing, and we'll see. The other thing that I want to discuss with you is the PLG motion. I mean, Airtable has been one of the pioneers in that sense, in doing it right, as they moved into enterprise and connecting it with a sales-led motion. What are some of the early indications for you to realize, okay, there's something here? And I'll give you an example. Let's say, you guys work with most of the Fortune 500. That's an insane statistic. But I guess it's not like the CFO calling you and saying, Anthony, I think I need to use Airtable. So how do you actually know that there is something at the PLG level to then engage with sales?
Yeah, so I think you're right. It's rare. It's not it's not that we've never had a CFO of a Fortune 500 to sign up for Airtable, but usually those signups are coming more from a department or from a team level, and that is a big part of the fuel for our larger enterprise sales motion. And I think what is unique about Airtable and many other PLG businesses is that it really, puts pressure on you to make the software delightful, intuitive, easy to use for anyone who's signing up, right? And so that's been a big focus of Airtable from the get-go, is to have this very high bar on product quality, so that literally anyone, whether you're coming from a small business or coming from a Fortune 500 company, can come into the product, can successfully activate, can develop an application that's going to solve a real problem, for your business. the way that we think about PLG and how it bleeds into our enterprise motion is that it's really just an early indicator for us that there might be a bigger problem for us to go solve within a company. And so oftentimes we'll see these teams come and create applications on Airtable, and as they grow and as they scale, that's when we will bring in our enterprise consultative sales team to help understand what are some of the bigger objectives that they're looking to solve. How do the workflows or the applications that they're building on Airtable ladder up into these larger company objectives? And they will oftentimes just help open up opportunity to solve a bigger end-to-end problem outside of the local team level problem that an individual user might have signed up for.
And have you seen anything specific that will give you a strong indication, like an aha moment when you're like, okay, now it's time to pull the trigger? Because I've seen the opposite situations where, yes, you can see users using your product, but who knows, maybe that's the intern. And the fact that you have 3 interns doesn't give the right to the sales team to start pushing from the top saying, 3 interns use your product, hence you need to do an enterprise account.
Yeah, so I think, for us, we look less at the overall just breadth of the number of users and actually more at the number of users for a particular application that's been built on Airtable. So that's often a sign, for us, that there might be a larger problem to solve. If you have someone, come in from a Fortune 100 organization and build an app on Airtable that all of a sudden has several hundred people using that app on a weekly basis, it's usually an indicator that there might be a larger kind of business problem that application is helping to support. And so that's where we like to start the conversation and to understand, well, you've built something incredible. And, there's a huge amount of credit to our builders, the people inside these organizations who are often sitting in an operations role or sitting in some type of line of business, process transformation role or automation role, who identify these problems and build, the applications themselves on Airtable. And so, we think of our role from an enterprise sales perspective as being helping those people, helping them to connect the dots towards bigger opportunities to solve even more impactful problems at the organization scale versus the initial solutions that they often provide just within their department or team.
Anthony, I enjoyed this chat with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be on the podcast again, and looking forward, hopefully, to staying in touch in the future.
Absolutely.